thing, but now you don't use it much, and they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marc Rosenthal with you on this Wednesday. Here's what's happening. Sunshine, blue sky, breezy and cool today. Temps only 58 to 64. Clear and cool overnight. Temperatures by morning in the lower 40s. And for tomorrow, we'll do it again with sunshine, less wind, temperatures about 64. And then a warming trend starts late in the week, lasting straight on through the weekend. On the Money Matters Radio Network, I'm Marc Rosenthal.
Hey, I'm Mike Slater. My dad passed away at the age of 63. It's out of nowhere. Had a stroke. Super hard, obviously, for the whole family, but my dad had life insurance. This is why I have life insurance for my family, for my wife and 4 kids. And the best place to get life insurance is ethos.com, because you can do it in 10 minutes. And there's no medical exam and no blood test, just a few health questions. Get life insurance in 10 minutes so your family is protected. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide available this month titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, a lot of changes in the RMD landscape. When do people have to take RMDs from either IRAs or Roths?
How old are you?
Me personally?
So this does start changing now. It is currently 73 for a lot of folks. For some younger folks, it's actually now going to be 75 years old for your traditional IRAs and 401ks. And so that started at 70 and a half just a few years ago. And so this is a new set of rules for a lot of people.
When you look at how the penalty situation has evolved, this is one area that's actually gotten a little bit more lenient in recent years. And so that's something where if you are new to RMDs, there are some incentives if you've missed one to get that squared away as soon as possible.
There are, but key takeaway. Understand these rules and don't miss your required minimum distribution, because there are still penalties for something that, again, is completely avoidable. Yes, the penalties used to be bigger. They are less stringent now and a bit smaller, but it is still unnecessary extra taxes and fees that you will end up paying if you do miss your required minimum distribution. So get our guide and learn a little bit more about how all of this works.
Folks, the guide is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, and Tucker with you today, and us not being government employees, we are working regular hours and chugging along, just as I'm sure most of you are, but as of 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, the federal government is shut down. Now, does this mean that your dollars are no good anywhere? No, it doesn't mean that. Does it mean that we have to use the metric system instead of the imperial system? No, it doesn't mean that either. What it does mean is that for about 750,000 government employees, they are furloughed and not getting paid while the shutdown goes on. And the work that they do, deemed non-essential, is not being done during that time as well. Generally, most of these things, to the vast majority of people, are not overly disruptive, but some of the stuff can be disruptive to small constituencies, and we can get into that. But the big things, Social Security continues to operate as it previously has, Medicare continues to operate as it previously has, Medicaid continues to operate. So any of those big programs are generally up and running. The U.S. Treasury is not allowed to disperse payments to the agencies, but any money that they've given to agencies can be used by them. So, generally what you have is, money is dispersed in advance to allow for agencies to continue as normal operations as they can. But as it relates to our show and the financial world as a whole, one of the disruptions that we will see is the lack of government data releases, the biggest one being the jobs report that is expected to come out on Friday. If we are still shut down as of Friday, there will be no non-farm payroll report that we receive for the month of September. Your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, it's natural to wonder any market impact historically, and we could talk about the economic impact, obviously.
I have the market impact data if you'd like to.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It.
We have our own internal version, but yeah, what do you?
Oh, I have the external version.
Yeah,
I guess the internal version was not shared with me.
By internal, I mean mine. So yours has probably been vetted. So
you didn't even share this with me. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Here's what I have. So if you look at U.S. government shutdowns, and the data that I have here is going back to 1976. There have been 20 since then. The average length of a government shutdown is 8 days. Though, if you look at the last 4, which happened in 95, 2013, and twice in 2018, 3 of those 4 went over 15 days. So you can make a case for, hey, in recent years, the last 30, they have tended to be on the longer side, whereas from 1981 through early 95, there was not a single one over 5 days in length, and there was only one over 15 days in length prior to that, which was in 1978. If you look at the S&P 500 return during the prior week, so the week heading up to the shutdown, it returned negative 0.1% during that on average. Now, the range varies greatly. In 2018, we had the worst performance heading into a shutdown, down 7.1%. In 1987, we had the best, up 5.9%. So there's a pretty wide range that you see there. And again, 20 is a pretty small sample size, especially when the average shutdown is 8 days. It's like, what do I even do with this? Is that 8 business days? No, it's actually 8 days. S&P 500 returned during shutdowns. The best that we've ever seen? Well, in 2018, remember how it was really bad before the shutdown? S&P returned 10.3% during the 34-day shutdown.
That's way different than what I got. I'm glad you used yours.
This is data from Truist they put this together.
Okay.
You have different data?
Well, price change for the 18-19 event, which lasted 21 days using the a rule that I used to calculate these. I just looked at the modern era. I have a total price change in the S&P for that 21-day period of 12.4%.
This is 10.3.
Okay.
Maybe during, I don't know if it includes
just slightly different definitions.
They might have done the day that it ended is not included in it or is
the bottom line is not really an intuitive response. People were never freaked out by shutdowns in the modern era because they know they're going to end.
1979, which was an 11-day shutdown, had the worst performance during a shutdown with the S&P down 4.4%.
Who knows what else was going on in 1979?
Correct. I have no idea. There could have been, haircuts and mustaches and all kinds of stuff going on back then. Don't know if that stuff affects the market, but whatever. And in the week after a government shutdown was resolved, the best performance that we've seen in the S&P 500 was in the first shutdown of 1982. There were 2 of them. They lasted a cumulative 4 days. But during the first one, the S&P 500 returned 7% for a single day, which is kind of, again, who knows what was going on then.
Yeah.
The worst performance that we've seen the week after, that was the week after. The worst performance for the week after a government shutdown was in 1990, where the S&P returned 3.7% in that week. Ultimately, you look at all this, and the historical data says government shutdowns are neither positive nor negative for the S&P 500. They tend to have no meaningful impact.
Yeah.
The
good
piece that I do think we have to pay attention to is the length of the shutdown, just because I do think, longer ones potentially can have more of an economic impact, which given some of where we are economically, could be, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Do I think that's likely? Not really, based on some of the labor market data that we've been getting the last week or so. Obviously not the government jobs report. It is clear to me that the labor market is cracking, but it might be doing so at income levels that are so low that they don't matter to the broader economic statistics because so much of the U.S. population has effectively been priced out of mattering to the broad economy, which is kind of a really bad way to think about it, but it might be true also.
Yeah, I've heard that possibility raised a lot. Spending being driven by higher income cohorts and unemployment being affected by similar dynamics. underlying labor force dynamics. I don't know. The Fed relies on the Fed, the policy making, the Federal Reserve, which controls the money supply, which in turn dictates short-term interest rates, relies on many of the same economic series that we do as investment folks and as many in the private sector do. So to an extent, they'll be flying blind as well.
They do have, they will look at other, pieces of data.
Plenty.
But, and this I think is something that is important to talk about when it comes to why do we care about the BLS jobs report as opposed to what we get from ADP? And there are a couple of reasons. The first is the overall scope of what you get from government data tends to be broader. And the best example I've seen of this is if you talk about, changes in things like rent growth, just as an example. Your big, apartmentlist.com and whatever that put out these rent growth numbers, oftentimes they are capturing large landlords that are listing on them, and that's how they get their data. The federal government, through its surveys, may survey smaller landlords that don't, use, payment systems that are, networked in and this and that, they might still pay, their renters might still pay by check instead of, having everything flowing through a bank. And so because of that, you can get access to parts of the economic data that you don't necessarily get through private surveys and things like that. This morning, we got ADP payroll data. And if you look at, who ADP serves, it's a certain subset of businesses. It's not capturing the data from businesses that aren't using their services and where could those businesses possibly reside? What types of industries do those influence? So this is why when we talk about, hey, can you make this up with the private data that's out there? You can get a lot of it. And generally, if it's all moving directionally, in the same fashion, you can still get a pretty good picture, but it's not as robust and as complete simply because these private sources all have limitations that, while the government data does have limitations as well, the scope that it captures tends to be broader than any of these private sources simply because they are private in nature. They're smaller. They don't get everywhere in the economy. Let's take a quick break on this. When we return, why don't we talk a little bit about the Fed and kind of where they are now and what we're seeing based on the data that we've gotten to this point and, kind of previewing their meeting that will be, I think it's at the end of this month. I believe it's the 29th is when it's held. We'll talk a little bit about that when we return.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Artificial intelligence is changing the way companies invest and how markets move. Add to that global trends like international outperformance, a weakening dollar, and shifting bond yields, and you've got a complex landscape for investors. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you understand what it all means. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th, or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your seat. We'll talk about how diversification and preparation may help you navigate uncertainty so your plan is ready. Don't miss this chance to get a clearer picture of your financial future. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The latest news on inflation, the Fed, the economy, and how the markets are reacting every morning, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This year's DAV 5K is sold out, but you can still help our great American heroes. The race is Saturday, November 8th at Castle Island, and you can visit dav5k.boston to make a donation of any amount to support our troops. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to dav5k.boston and make your donation today.
Mark, we've got a Fed meeting that happens 4 weeks from today on October 29th. And as of right now, the market is pricing in a 100% probability of a rate cut with a 99% chance of an additional 0.25% cut. And as of today, for the first time, we are seeing a 1% chance priced in of a 0.5% cut. Good luck to that person out there. So I think when we look at this, my question is pretty simple. If we have if this government shutdown turns out to be very short in nature, which most of them are, if we're sitting here a week from today and federal government is reopened, I think it's business as usual for the Fed. Yes, they might not have that September jobs report, but I think they can make do without it given the other data that they'll be getting. The question is, what if this is a repeat of the second shutdown that we saw in 2018, where it lasted 34 days? What if we're sitting here and it's November 5th, and we're sitting here on the 29th, and we haven't gotten a jobs report. We're not getting weekly jobless claims. We're not getting CPI data. We're not getting the retail sales data. How does the Fed go about making a decision during that meeting if they haven't gotten a lot of the key inputs that they normally put into it? You know, they will not have gotten PPI data, housing starts and building permits they will not have gotten. How do they go about figuring this out?
If they try to, they could estimate those missing data points and then plug the estimates into their model and adjust, and that will spit out values for what Fed funds should be, et cetera. It just increases the uncertainty associated with the right federal funds rate, the so-called neutral federal funds rate, which I guess they want to get to. They believe rates are currently restrictive, more likely to hold back economic activity, that is, than suppress inflation. So they could estimate them, Chuck. I'm not sure if that's, there are economists there who need to do something, so they will be doing those estimates. They will be running their models. The models will just have a greater band of uncertainty associated with them. The other option is just to go with the current trajectory. If you believe the trend in employment is down, and as you suggested in the last segment, there are plenty of signs of weakness in the labor market, none of them suggesting any great catastrophe is imminent, and maybe it's just a normalization following the frantic expansion in jobs that we saw in the few years following the COVID recession. I don't know. But if you assume that's the trajectory we're on, it's unlikely 1 month would change your opinion of that short-term trend. So if they wanted to ease last week, continue to ease, that is, if the Fed wanted to continue to lower short-term interest rates, they're probably going to be similarly inclined in a few weeks. Now, you could say, well, what if it's a huge employment swing one way or the other? Wouldn't that influence them? It might or it might not, depending on how strongly they feel about the trend.
And in terms of might or might not, I think what you're getting at there is, look, it still ultimately would be single data points that are subject to meaningful revisions, and as such, hey, do you want to necessarily put all your eggs in that basket? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was very, very vague. If you're in the camp, and I'm not, but I get it. If you're in the camp that the labor market is sucking wind, and that portends broader economic problems. We haven't really seen it show up in spending yet, but as you said earlier today internally, it will, if indeed that is what's happening. If you believe that a couple of weeks ago, it would probably take a big jobs gain, just to oversimplify here, to move you off that view.
And even then, you might still say, well, that's one positive jobs report. I need to see another one to confirm this wasn't a one-off.
Yeah. I think we all get committed to views that we hold, and we look for evidence that confirms them. And people who are in the we need more easing camp, Fed funds is restrictive, I don't buy that necessarily, but there are plenty of good, honest arguments in favor of that point of view. They're unlikely to be moved off that position or to want to be moved off that position by, as you said, just a couple of reports.
When we look at the broader data, talking about consumer spending, to my knowledge, the recessions that we have had since World War II, there has not been a single one that has been caused by a drop in consumer spending in advance of said recession, correct?
Well, it's part of GDP, so it would be considered, you'd see it fall coincident with
correct, but you never see it before. So like you can never, if you're looking for consumer spending to crack and then be like, oh, now we're in recession. It's like, okay, well, it's kind of too late at this point.
Yeah, but it's really because of the way we define recessions. I mean, the Fed has been the proximate cause of every recession, with a few big exceptions in the post-war period.
Sure.
And the Fed works on the economy by cooling it, by slowing overall demand, thus, i.e., slowing spending.
So I think that the question here is labor tends to be somewhat of a lagging indicator simply because consumption leads investment in labor. If you don't have sales, you say, okay, now it's time for me to lay people off. If sales are growing rapidly, you say, okay, now it's time for me to hire. So that's why you have that mechanism where labor is a lagging indicator. So I think the question that you get at is one where if you look at kind of this broad range of labor data, not government-based. You can look at ADP, Paychecks, and Indeed, and I think you get a pretty good sense of what's going on in the labor market. ADP came out this morning and said, hey, you lost 32,000 jobs for the month of September. That continues, a downward trend that you're on in that data set. If you look at Paychecks, they have a small business hiring index that printed a minus 0.31% for September, corresponds to what you're seeing on the ADP data. If you're looking at Indeed and job openings, you're seeing a very, consistent trend down in the number of job openings. It also, by the way, correlates really well with the JOLTS data. And so I think in a pinch, you can use that Indeed job openings index as a proxy for what you'll get on JOLTS. And so ultimately, I think you get to a position, and this is kind of where I've gotten back to over the last month or two. Yeah, the labor market is worsening at a clip that, in my opinion, is faster than how badly the inflation situation's worsening. And I think you're completely justified in cutting given that overall prognosis. Quick break here. When we come back, we're joined by Todd Lutsky for Ask Todd. We've also got Wall Street Watch right after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. Cushing & Dolan know that gifting assets can be one of the most emotional and challenging parts of estate planning. Their new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, can help you learn what to consider before making a major gift, like your primary home or a vacation property, and avoid unintended tax problems. Call 866-848-5699 to get your copy, or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan, with their master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, if you're trying to protect your assets from the cost of long-term care expenses, what are the risks in giving your assets to a child rather than transferring them to an irrevocable trust?
Yeah, it's a very big difference, right? These irrevocable trusts that we do for Medicaid purposes, first and foremost, are incomplete gifts. So you're not actually making a gift at all when you put it into these trusts. But if you give it to a child, now you've made a completed gift. So, for example, if I gave away my house, and people do it, right? You are giving away the built-in gain in that house. You now don't have any control over the house. You can't sell it and buy another one if you want to move. You need the kid's permission for all of that. Plus, if you never sell it and you die, you've trapped the built-in gain for the kids. When they go to sell it, they're going to have to pay capital gains tax. Whereas if you keep it, you can control it, get a step up in basis for the kids when they die, and still protect it from the nursing home through the trust. Either way, it's going to take 5 years. But gifting isn't always the answer.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request a copy on their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, the government shutdown is officially underway, and markets are dipping slightly into negative territory at the moment. Right now, the Dow is mostly flat, dipping by 17 points. S&P 500 down 0.1% or 7 points lower. NASDAQ is down 0.1% as well, or 20 points lower. Russell 2000 dipping as well, mostly flat. 10-year Treasury yield down 4 basis points at 4.108%, and crude oil down nearly 0.9%, trading at $61.84 a barrel. Nike stock climbing over 4% higher after the athletic retailer posted a surprise sales increase for the previous quarter, but raised its tariff cost forecast to $1.5 billion this fiscal year. Nike also warned that sales could slide this holiday season. Meanwhile, shares in Lithium Americas soaring 21% after the Department of Energy said it would take a 5% stake in both the Canadian company and its Nevada mining project. Elsewhere, AES shares surging nearly 14% after the Financial Times reported that BlackRock-owned Global Infrastructure Partners is in late-stage talks to acquire the renewable and thermal power producer. According to the Wall Street Journal, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is in talks to buy Occidental Petroleum's petrochemical business for around $10 billion. Sunrun up by 8% after Jefferies upgraded the solar panel maker to buy from hold, citing the company's strong cash generation. Ford saw sales of its EVs and large SUVs climb 8.2% in the previous quarter. Ford up by 1%. And Peloton announced it's revamping its product assortment, launching a new commercial equipment line and raising prices for both subscriptions and hardware ahead of the holiday season. Peloton down by 7%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
And we've got Todd Lutsky joining us now for Ask Todd. It's your opportunity to ask Todd your estate planning questions. Phone lines are wide open at 888-205-2263. So get calling early and often. We can usually get through 2 to 3 questions with Todd. So make sure that you get in line. Again, that phone number is 888-205-2263. One more time, it is 888-205-2263. That's the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I am never better. How's that? Is that good, right?
It's good. I'm struggling a bit. Fell for a scam at the florist the other day.
At the florist?
Yeah, it was a Pansy scheme.
Oh, yeah, well.
Yeah, it just totally took me for a ride. But, hey, you live and learn and you move on. Todd, I want to talk a little bit about gifting, if you don't mind, because we're rapidly approaching the holiday season, and 'tis the season to talk about gifting.
Yes?
When we look at the annual gifting limits that are in place for 2025, what is that threshold?
So there's 2 different thresholds really to think about. One would be what we call a present interest gift exclusion. And this is what I like to call the freebie. It's a complete freebie, meaning you can do it, make the transfer, make the gift, and there is no filing requirement for a gift tax return and no reporting whatsoever. Freebie. How much? $19,000 per person per year. So it's if you are married and you want to give to your child, you and your spouse can give $19,000 each to that child. So it's about $38,000. So that's a good amount. And you can do it for every single kid, every grandkid. And remember, it's also not limited to family. So in case you want to send Chuck some money, you can, right? It's just $19,000 is no reporting. So excellent way of gifting, and it's just an outright freebie. Now,
what happens if you go $1 over that? Like, what happens if I write a check just to I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm doing $19,001. What do I do with that? What happens because of that extra dollar?
So, and again, whether it's an extra dollar, which is your example, or an extra $1 million, same event. You now technically have a taxable gift. Okay, a taxable gift.
Taxable to whom?
I know, it's crazy, but I'd like to always say that no good deed goes unpunished, right? Guess who pays the gift tax? The giver.
Oh.
Not the recipient.
Say it ain't so.
Not the recipient. It's the giver. And it makes sense in the grand scheme of things, right? Because if you have an estate tax and you could say, hey, right before I die, I'll just give everything away to avoid the estate tax, and you didn't have a gift tax, then the estate tax would have no teeth. So I get why they do it, but it does sound funny that the giver has to pay the tax. So the giver pays tax. Last exemption, $15 million come January 1, 2026. Right now it's $13.9. It's going to be $15 million as your federal estate tax exemption. It's also your gift tax exemption. So if you start making taxable gifts and going over this $19,000, so like for example, if I file $1 million, let's just make it easy numbers. I file $1 million, I make a gift of $1 million, and let's say I could shelter the first 20 as a freebie. That would make $800,000 taxable, right? No, I'm sorry, more than that, right? If you $20,000, it would be $980,000 taxable.
Sure,
because you can only shelter the first 20 or 19 in this case, right? So you have a $980,000 gift, taxable gift. Need to file a Form 709 gift tax return to report the amount over the $19,000. That's the piece that's the taxable gift. You get to back out the 19. File the gift tax return. The only good news here is when I say this is an exemption, you then eat into your $1 million exemption by the taxable gift amount, and you end up paying no tax. But you got to file.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. You got questions for Todd? He's got answers. 888-205-2263 is the phone number, so you can ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. That number is 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we return, we're going to get to your questions with Todd right after the break. Again, it's 888-205-2263. One last time, that number is 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping in the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. His dedication to serving our veterans has made an incredible impact on his family and employees. And he is so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston.
This is Brittany Vonner. I'm a registered nurse who is now working as an assistant project manager at Veterans Development Corporation. Working with my father, Marc, has been an incredibly rewarding experience. Our company is dedicated to serving VA hospitals and veteran communities. We don't just build facilities, we build environments that support healing, resilience, and family. We are so proud to see our work directly impact the lives of veterans and the professionals who care for them. This rich history is why we care so much about supporting great organizations such as the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts in the work they do to care for our veterans.
Join Veterans Development Corporation in thanking our great American heroes. Please visit dav5k.boston to show your support today.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
If you got a question for Todd Lutsky, still room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263. That is 888-205-2263. Let's go to Mike from Boston. Michael, you are on with Todd Lutsky.
Good morning. I had a question about the cost of an irrevocable trust. There never seems to be any talk or referral to what that cost is.
Sure.
I hear a lot about it. I've done some research. Myself, I've read a few. I guess you'd call them relatively simple. But in 19, 20 pages, roughly, 18 pages is legal jargon. They were the same from trust to trust. The only thing that changed was the names of the trustees, the beneficiary, how he will receive his money or her money, and any little other stipulations in there, additional, which took about a page and a half or two. What does it cost to do what I consider to be relatively simple and the same from trust to trust as far as the work you put in, the terminology seems to be the same from trust to trust.
Well, I'm going to beg to differ with you tremendously on that front because, first of all, there's many kinds of irrevocable trusts out there. There's qualified personal residence trusts that are irrevocable. There's spousal lifetime access trusts for high net worth clients that are irrevocable when you give them away. There are Medicaid income only trusts, the kind we talk about a lot on the show, when you give those away. So, there's gifting trusts, there's irrevocable life insurance trusts. So when you say they're the same, I'm not sure what you've read that makes you think that one irrevocable trust should have the same language as the other. And secondly, that our trusts anyway are, they're not 19, 20 pages, they're 60 or 50, but that isn't what we don't charge based on the page. That isn't how you do it. It's like someone thinks it's simple, but then, so I have this, it's a great question because I have a real life story on it where I had a client come in and say, well, I need to set up this irrevocable trust and I'm going to be giving assets away to my family. And so how does this work? And then I started asking him, well, do you want it to be a completed gift for gift tax purposes? Yes or no? Do you want to retain control over it? Yes or no? Well, what about for income tax purposes? Do I want to make it a grantor trust for income tax purposes, which means that while I don't own it and it's out of my estate for estate tax purposes, which is great, I don't want to pay income tax on what's in there growing at a much higher rate. Because remember, taxation at the trust level after about $14,000 is taxable at the top rate. Whereas humans, we have a much bigger, rate structure, so we don't have to pay tax like that. So the answer is you got to make it a grantor trust for income tax purposes. So even though it's an irrevocable trust and out of your estate, it can still be taxed in your estate for income tax purposes. Then you have to think about, well, do I want it to be a gift so that it's protected from perhaps like the nursing home and creditors, but I want to keep control over it. I want to be able to enjoy it. I want to be able to control it, maybe get the income. Well, that's important because if I do that, then I'm including it in my estate and I'm going to get a step up in basis for capital gains tax purposes on the item that's in there, say my home that might be worth a lot of money or a rental property that I put in there. Oh, I certainly want to get the step up in basis when I die so that I don't have capital gains tax for my beneficiaries to pay when they get it. But I also want to reduce my estate taxes, and then you have to run those numbers and see what works. So in terms of this simply being a simple thing that somebody does is absolutely incorrect. And so there's a lot to think about that goes in there, and the way we draft it changes based on that. Now, it is true that there are some people, some attorneys that go out and just buy a package off the internet somewhere and then sell it. We don't do that. We've drafted our document. So our intellectual property, like when I started, our trust was 25 pages long. It's now 50. Why? Because we add to it. We put our own intellectual property into it as laws change, as revenue rulings come out, as issues we see with clients in terms of how they get it come out, how you leave the assets to the children to prevent fighting. So I think there's an awful lot involved in there when you're doing this. And so I think you need to figure out all of that when you're trying to come up with what the cost is. And that cost is unfortunately going to vary. It's a flat fee, at least at our firm, but it's going to vary based on what kind of trust you're doing, whether it's a QPERT, whether it's an irrevocable life insurance trust or a Medicaid trust. So I think that's the safest. And from everybody listening, you should get a flat fee from your attorney before you would go forward. I think flat fees are the way to go. That way you know exactly what you're getting into before you would actually, do this kind of trust. So I hope that helps a little. But folks, the newest guide that's out there that we're doing for this month, which is not just about estate planning, it's more about gifting, which is exactly what some of the issues we were talking about with this caller. And that is that when you're gifting assets, do I want to gift it? Do I want to make something a gift one way or another? Do I want to give it outright to my kids? Do I want to hold it in a spousal lifetime access trust so that I can enjoy what I gave away? Remember, I said you got to figure out how can I enjoy what I gave away and keep it outside my estate for estate taxes. So that's where spousal lifetime access trust comes in. You always got to think about what kind of asset you're giving away. High basis assets versus low basis assets. Think about it from a Medicaid nursing home perspective. If I own an account jointly with a non-spouse, is it half protected already? Is it not half protected? If I own my house with somebody that's a non-spouse, is it half protected? Is it not half protected? So you got to think about it from every angle when you're gifting, folks. The guide, getting the most out of gifting assets, is 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. New guide for the month, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, talking more about the gifting side of things there, how does one make the decision on what are kind of good assets to gift versus poor ones? Like, how do you decide when it makes sense to gift versus not?
Yeah, and that's, and again, I know with our caller, I gave a lot of information really fast, but this would be break it down. One of the things I was trying to explain to the caller was, okay, I do want to make an irrevocable trust. Now I want to know if that irrevocable trust is going to be a completed gift or not a completed gift. And then once we determine from your question, Chuck, that it is going to be a completed gift, now we have to determine what asset should we gift. Easiest one, cash. Cash is always good. Why? Because there's no basis problem with cash, right? Cash is cash. There is no built-in gain that I need to worry about. Whereas, I've got this rental property that I bought 30 years ago and fully depreciated it over time, meaning my basis in the property is now a zero because I've rented it for more than 27 and a half years. If I give that away, let's say it's $1 million property and my basis is zero, now I've trapped for my family 28.8% capital gain on $1 million. Not just 28.8%, but the depreciation piece of the gain is taxed at ordinary income. So the rate is not just capital gain, but the appreciation portion of the gain is taxed as ordinary income. Is taxed as capital gain. So then you have to figure out that the rate we're trapping is actually higher than that. So great question, Chuck. I think that's just the beginning, the tip of the gifting iceberg, if you will, as to what you need to think about before you make a gift.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still a bunch to come as we get towards hour 2. We're going to be talking about a few different AI stories, including how AI may or may not be impacting the labor market. We're also going to talk a little bit about student loan debt, and then Boeing making some noise about, hey, we're getting started on a potential 737 replacement. What does that look like? What's the timeline? We got all that and more coming up in the next hour on the Financial Exchange.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? but you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping in the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all 3 and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, one area with some big changes the last couple of years has been RMDs as it relates to inherited IRAs. What is the lay of the land today?
Yeah, so critical things that you need to know is that for most inheritors that are not spouses, so that's your starting point. If you are not married to the person who passed away, you are most likely subject to a out in 10 rule. What has also changed is that you're required to satisfy two different rules for most folks. Again, you are required to empty that inherited IRA within a decade. You also have annual required minimum distributions based on life expectancy. So it is really complicated now for inheritors.
How does that potentially influence how a parent may leave assets to surviving children in terms of taking their incomes into account?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it is going to concentrate this additional income in a decade time period after you're gone. And so it adds a little bit of complexity in terms of that estate planning, right? Maybe I've got two kids. One's a very high income earner. One is a little bit lower. Do I potentially reshape my beneficiaries so that they both receive the same amount, maybe after taxes? A lot of complex planning you can do there.
The guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. The two ways that you can request it are by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, and Tucker with you. And as we kick things off here, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 20 points, was previously down about 200 this morning. S&P is now down 4, it was down about 30. And the NASDAQ actually down just 7 points. It was down about 150 at one point. So all indices off their lows, but still down for the day thus far. 10-year U.S. Treasury is seeing its yield moving down as well as money flows into it. Right now, we've got the 10-year U.S. Treasury at 4.11%. That's down 3.8 basis points from where it was yesterday. And so overall, not a ton of movement in equities, but you do have that movement in bonds, and we'll talk about why bonds started to move around 8.15 this morning in just a little bit. Other movements, we've got oil down 53 cents a barrel to 61.84 on West Texas Intermediate. We've got gold up 23.60 an ounce to 38.96 for another all-time high on gold, which, by the way, has just been absolutely ripping since mid-August, up about $600 in the past 6 weeks now. And so that's about a 15% gain on gold during that time period. So just a monster move after a summer of consolidation there. I do want to talk about what's going on in bonds, just because basically this move in bonds happened right around 8:15 a.m. when the ADP employment data was released. Now, here's the thing about the ADP data. Generally, no one really cares about it. But with the federal government having been shut down since 12:01 a.m. Eastern, you are not going to get a jobs report this Friday if the federal government remains shut down through that time period. So we have to look at alternate measures of employment. Now, the reason that people generally don't care that much about ADP, it's a narrower subset of data that they tend to look at, and it doesn't correlate month to month tremendously well with the jobs data. It does have a really strong correlation in the last few years in particular with a multi-month trend. So if you look at like the 3-month trend on ADP and compare it to the 3-month trend on the BLS data, they're really close, especially this year. They've been almost in lockstep on a rolling 3-month basis. So at 8:15 this morning, ADP came out and said, hey, U.S. economy lost 32,000 jobs for the month. That compared to expectations of a 40 to 50,000 job gain. Normally we'd say, okay, we'll wait until, Friday for, the BLS jobs report because that's what people pay attention to. But since we might not get that, you start looking to try to build a picture with alternate data sets. And you have this number that came out that was poor. Other ones that we've seen in the labor market that are not great over the last week or so. Paychex runs a small business jobs index. And what we see there is that for the month of September, they're reporting a 0.31% decline in jobs for the month in that index. And so that obviously is a shift. The 3-month trend now, by the way, has gone from a 0.17% gain in July to 0.01% gain in August, now negative 0.31 in September. So there is, a declining trend that's in place there as well. So that's something that you look at. We also have updated data from Indeed on job openings, which continue to decline there. The reason why this matters is the Indeed data does correlate pretty darn strongly with the JOLTS data that the government tends to release. Not tends to, that the government releases as long as it's open. And so the Indeed postings index is a pretty good leading indicator of where JOLTS is going to be. And so overall, if you look at kind of the data in the aggregate, the one piece that's not really pointing towards a worsening in the labor market is the weekly jobless claims series. That hasn't really shown us much of anything. It's just kind of, hey, the labor market is in the same spot that it's been. Low hire, low fire, like that's kind of the same thing there. These other data series are getting worse in the last month or two, and if they continue to, it's going to be pretty hard to ignore if we're sitting here in November with a similar decline compared to what we've just seen.
Yeah, the challenge for the Fed here is ascertaining why the labor market is softening. The Fed can influence overall demand in the economy. They do it by printing money. I'm oversimplifying a little bit. And hitting their short-term interest rate target. So when you hear the Fed has lowered interest rates, what really goes on behind the scenes is they credit the New York Fed, which does the buying and selling of treasuries with reserves, with money. New York Fed goes out and spreads that around the banking system. I'm really oversimplifying, but it's an important distinction. They control the money supply. They target short-term interest rates. That in turn allows them to throttle up or pair demand in the economy. So what if this labor market softening is due to supply factors, not demand factors? So things like tariffs and the uncertainty associated with tariffs, sure. Things like deportation policy. You may think all these policies are great, by the way. I'm not passing judgment on them. I'm saying simply they are a form of so-called supply shocks. They reduce the economy's productive capacity. The Fed really can't do anything about that. So It might be overstimulating demand, as silly, as counterintuitive as that sounds. You say, well, the labor market's slowing. The Fed's got to lower interest rates, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe the level of unemployment or the rate of unemployment associated with stable inflation is higher than it used to be because of these changes to the labor market that are taking place. This is all interesting stuff, at least to some of us, to talk about. We can't really answer these questions now. We won't know for a year or two whether the Fed has done the right thing or they overshot or undershot. But this is why the decision is not a straightforward one, and why honest people can disagree about the right monetary stance. Also, why gold might be ripping. Investors might be losing confidence in the Fed's hold on or commitment to very low inflation. That has implications for the U.S. dollar, which in turn has implications for other currencies. And you can think of gold as an alternative currency.
And here is the interesting thing that I do come back to is the story that gold is telling us is a currency-related story, but it's not a U.S. dollar-related story. And what I mean by that is if you go and you look at gold denominated in a whole bunch of different currencies. I mean, you can go out and you can look at it in yen terms. You can go out and look at it in, euro terms, in Australian dollar terms. Like, you can go across the board pretty much and say, hey, how is gold moving relative to all of these currencies? And what we are seeing is not something that is exclusive to the U.S., where gold is only appreciating in U.S. dollar terms. You're seeing it appreciating across the board compared to a large number of major currencies. I pulled up the chart here. The one that I have is only through late August, so I don't have the most recent move just because I haven't pulled it. But if you look at the run-up in gold in the first half of the year, gold went up in Australian dollars, in U.S. dollars, in euros, in yen, in rupees, in yuan. This was across the board the move that you were seeing. And so what that says is it's not investors looking for a replacement for the U.S. dollar specifically, or, a hedge against the U.S. dollar. That's telling you, hey, investors are kind of looking at the whole, pot of fiat currencies and just being like, ew, you want me to eat that? We can't eat rupees. We can't eat U.S. dollars.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. It's too bad that the dollar is not serving as the safe haven asset that it, and U.S. Treasuries, moreover, are not.
U.S. Treasuries, you can make the case, are getting the bid that you would expect in a safe haven move.
I was thinking some people have written about relative changes in the long end of the Treasury yield curve, and I've not thought too deeply about this, and I don't claim to be an expert, but they've pointed out forget it. I haven't thought enough about it to explain it coherently, so just forget it. It's interesting to me that this, and is certainly not coincidental, that gold's allure is increasing at the same time that debts and deficits across the developed world show no signs of improving, and underlying inflation.
Look at what everyone's doing.
The
U.S. passed a bill middle of this year that did nothing to rein in deficits. Europe said, hey, we're going to raise an extra $500 billion for defense spending, and we're just going to figure out how to pay for it. Japan is seeing renewed inflation for the first time in 35 years. And the BOJ can't figure out what to do with it because they're like, well, if we start raising interest rates, this is going to make the yen pretty strong, and that has some really bad implications for us. China is raising all kinds of debt to try to paper over other debt that they already have that appears to be going bad. It's not surprising that all of these currencies are getting trounced in gold terms, because you sit there and you look at it and you're like, okay, no one's got any fiscal discipline. If that's the case, why do I want to just sit there and own the currency when I could own a hard asset if this is going to be the policy for, the foreseeable future? Now, if that turns, obviously you've got problems there, but otherwise you kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, I'm not surprised that they're selling rupees to buy gold. I'm not surprised they're selling euros to buy gold. I'm not surprised they're selling dollars to buy gold. It makes intuitive sense when you look at it in the context of no one's being fiscally responsible right now.
Yeah, I didn't get that case for gold. because I was trained traditionally, like a lot of researchers are, and
Sure.
gold is not generative. It's very hard to calculate its present value. It has no cash flows to bring back to today. You have to think about it in terms of trust and the erosion of trust in traditional institutions and arrangements.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got a bunch of AI stories to get to, and we'll get to them right after this.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Cushing & Dolan know that gifting assets can be one of the most emotional and challenging parts of estate planning. Their new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, can help you learn what to consider before making a major gift, like your primary home or a vacation property, and avoid unintended tax problems. Call 866-848-5699 to get your copy, or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Turning 70 isn't just another birthday. It's when the clock starts ticking on your retirement withdrawals. At age 73 or at age 75 if you were born in 1960 or later, you need to start withdrawing money from your IRA. They're called required minimum distributions, and missing one can mean big penalties. Taking the RMDs at the wrong time can also spike your tax bill. Even the type of account matters, since your IRA and 401k follow different rules, which could get confusing fast. Our new guide is called Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. It breaks the process down in simple terms so you know when to start, how much to take, and ways to manage the tax impact. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132, weekdays from 11 to noon. Get the latest business and financial news from across the country and around the world, and keep up to date on how it might affect your wallet. That's The Financial Exchange, weekdays from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. And on this day, back in 1908, the Ford Motor Company introduced the Model T. The Model T, originally priced at $825, was a huge success for the car maker. The Model T remained in production until 1927. So our trivia question today, what was the name of Ford's first automobile? Once again, what was the name of Ford's first automobile? Be the eighth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You'd win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the eighth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
There's a piece here from the Financial Times. It's titled How Nvidia's Jensen Huang Became AI's Global Salesman. And it's a great piece, actually, talking about how in the last year and a half, he's basically started, traveling the world, like pushing the idea of like, hey, it's not just about a few companies building out AI. It's got to be every country needs to have its own, quote, sovereign AI in order to, own its intelligence data and yada, 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 and this whole thing. And look, two things can be true. It's probably accurate that you don't want to have artificial intelligence models that you're running that are in the hands of other countries that might not share your worldview. But it's also incredibly self-serving that, hey, you need to do this, and I've got the product just for you. Both of those things can be true. The whole thing that got interesting to me, though, again, I have no idea how any of this is going to end up. But I know how some of it's going to end up. And here's the part that I do know how it's going to end up, because it's already ending up there. I'm going to quote this right here. The oil-rich states of the Gulf are trying to position themselves as hubs for AI and its infrastructure. The scale is staggering. Sponsors say the UAE's Stargate AI data center will require 5 gigawatts of power, roughly the same as the entire city of New York. So here's the thing. That's all well and good in the UAE. If they want to build 5 gigawatts of data center, they can do it. And if they want to build 5 gigawatts of power plants to power said data center, they can do it. There's no problem there. The limiting factor in the United States is not going to be data center build out, it's going to be power build out. And specifically the cost of power generation, which we are already seeing as a problem as utility companies are raising costs in order to deal with all of the additional data center demand. This is just a reminder. Last year, data centers used about 4% of all power generation in the United States. By 2028, largely on the back of this, they're expected to use up to 12%. We are not going to grow power generation capacity fast enough to match that. And we know that, by the way, because these plans for these data centers have only started to come out in the last, year or two. To anyone listening who works in the electricity business and in any part of it, you're going to just nod along as I say this. If you're talking about trying to build a new power plant, whether it is a new nat gas plant, a new, God forbid, nuclear plant, a new solar plant, whatever it might be, the simple ones are going to take you 10 to 15 years. A nuclear plant, the reason I said God forbid, it's going to take you 30 years to get a new nuclear plant built in the United States. We know that because the only nuclear plant that came online in the last 30 years is in Georgia, and it took about 30 years to actually get from start to finish. So I think overall, when we look at this, the problem, the limiting factor in the United States is going to be the ability to build power generation and transmission infrastructure to cover all of the needs of these data centers because we don't build power plants in the U.S. quickly. We build them really, 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 really slowly. About as slowly as you can. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that it is. It actually is bad that we don't build power plants quickly enough. I understand no one wants to live next to one of them, but ultimately we have to build these things, and we just don't. Whether you're talking about the generation, the distribution, transmission, like none of it, we don't really do a good job with any of it. And it's because all of us want to keep this stuff out of our backyard, and instead it ends up in no one's backyard, and the electricity prices go through the roof. And that's going to be the limiting factor, is the political upheaval because of this, when electricity prices are rising 10, 15, 20% a year, so Mark Zuckerberg can make AI slop videos on his new AI slop site. Okay, great. What do I get for that? A higher bill? Because someone wanted to make a cat riding a unicorn through a field of, flowers shaped like turnips? Wonderful. Can't wait, Zuck. How much did that cost me on my electric bill? $136?
Can you actually make that in the break?
Probably. I don't know how to do that, though.
Plug it in.
I've never done video.
Oh, video. I thought you meant picture.
No, we're talking video. You didn't hear about this?
No.
Zuck's video slop site? We'll cover that next on the Financial Exchange.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping in the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc is a career military man, having served nearly 20 years, and we are so proud to have him and his business as a key partner and a presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. The DAV Department of Massachusetts does incredible work, and it's one of the first organizations that Marc became familiar with after his military service ended back in 1984. As Marc built his company, he knew he'd be giving back to fellow veterans who needed jobs, support services, medical supplies, and so much more. Marc works with disabled veterans every day, and it's one of the key reasons why he's such a big supporter of Dan Stack, the DAV Department of Massachusetts, and the DAV 5K Boston. You can join Marc Vonner and his team and make a donation to the DAV Department of Massachusetts or become a sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, since the estate tax laws are projected to change on January 1st of 2026, significantly reducing the estate tax exemption, does it make sense to gift away assets right now?
You know, it's a big question mark. You have to think of a few things. One, look at the size of your estate. If the exemption falls to $7 million each and you're married, you can still die with $14 million of assets and not have an estate tax. So gifting might not be important from a federal gift tax situation. But the state exemption is only $2 million, so you can only shelter $4 million. So you might want to gift to reduce your state estate tax. However, there's basis to consider. If you give away low basis assets, you're trapping capital gain. And to do that, you might be paying more in capital gains taxes later when the kids sell the assets than you're saving in just Massachusetts estate tax. So you really got to think about whether it makes sense to gift or not. And if you're going to gift, you should probably set up a gifting trust. People might be gifting large assets away and not gift the assets directly to a child. Have them in a trust for the child's benefit and then protect those assets for them.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request a copy from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, despite the government shutdown being officially underway, markets are mostly quiet and mixed at the moment. Right now, the Dow is up by nearly 0.2% or 82 points higher. S&P 500 is edging 3 points higher. NASDAQ is up merely 1 point. Russell 2000 is down 0.1%. 10-year Treasury yield down 2 basis points at 4.127%, and crude oil down 0.75%, trading just below $62 a barrel. Nike stock climbing over 5% after the athletic retailer posted a surprise sales increase for the previous quarter, but raised its tariff cost forecast to $1.5 billion this fiscal year. Nike also warned that sales could slide this holiday season. Meanwhile, shares in Lithium Americas soaring 22% after the Department of Energy said it would take a 5% stake in both the Canadian company and its Nevada mining project. Elsewhere, AES shares surging 15% after the Financial Times reported that BlackRock-owned Global Infrastructure Partners is in late-stage talks to acquire the renewable and thermal power producer. According to the Wall Street Journal, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is in talks to buy Occidental Petroleum's petrochemical business for about $10 billion. And Amazon recently announced it has expanded its private label grocery lineup with the launch of a new brand aimed at price-conscious shoppers, with most products priced under $5. The brand will be called Amazon Grocery. It includes more than 1,000 items. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked the trivia question, what was the name of Ford's first automobile? That would be the Model A. Leon Dina is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt from Dennis, by the way. Congrats. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
So this was about a week ago. It was on September 25th. And this is direct from the Meta website. Introducing Vibes, a new way to discover and create AI videos. Today, we're rolling out the next iteration of the Meta AI app, including an early preview of Vibes, a new feed in the Meta AI app where you can create and share short-form AI-generated videos. Whoa.
I noticed the metaverse voice is officially back.
Oh, it's because this sucks so much. No, this is just a whole new way to suck. Vibes is designed to make it easier to find creative inspiration and experiment with Meta AI's media tools. As you browse, you'll see a range of AI-generated videos like some weird orange furry dude riding a motorcycle that I see below here. The feed will become more personalized over time, and if something catches your eye, you can create your own video, remix what you see, and share it with friends and followers. With Vibes, you can start from scratch, work with content you already have, or remix a video to make it your own. Add new visuals, layers, and music, and adjust styles to match your taste. Okay, so it's a whole AI video feed. They don't allow for anything in it that's not AI. And the samples they have, they've got literally, it looks like, you know the Philly Fanatic?
Yeah, the big green
No, not
fella.
that one. Who's the Flyers mascot? Gritty?
Oh, yeah, the guy with the bulging eyes.
They got like a naked version of him riding a motorcycle.
Okay.
It's just him wearing a tie. Then you've got a moose jumping on a trampoline and a cat at a spa.
Okay.
A lot of questions that I have. The first one is,
what?
Why? The second is, what? Who? And by that I mean, who actually wants to just scroll through a feed of AI video slop all day? And the point that I'll make on this is artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence has been around for almost 3 years right now. It was November of 22 when the first ChatGPT popped out. Is there a single meme that has come out of an AI-generated video or picture? The answer is no, and the reason why is A, they're just really easy to make, so it's like everyone can do the same thing, but B, AI has accidentally proven that humans have a soul, because the thing that makes a meme is being able to recognize yourself in the picture that you're seeing. Tucker, if I show you a picture of angry Jack Nicholson in a military uniform in a courtroom, you immediately know that on that I'm going to put, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. You know that because we all have like those feelings at some point or another. If I put up the picture from Say Anything of John Cusack holding the boombox over his head, we all know exactly what I'm talking about right now and exactly how to feel because we all recognize ourselves in John Cusack in one way or another. When I see a moose jumping on a trampoline, I'm like, WTF, mate? Like, what's going on? Like, what are we doing here? This is stupid. It's just stupid at this point. And the fact that Meta is, like, trying to make AI video feeds happen is dumb. Now, they'll go on to make billions of dollars off this, I'm sure. So, I'm going to be the dummy. But they didn't on, the whole metaverse because, again, it was kind of the same thing. It's just, like, Mark Zuckerberg, for all of his success, sometimes has trouble recognizing what makes a human, and this is one of those examples.
You know what it comes back to for me, and this won't surprise you, my usual rant, which is financial conditions might be too loose. It's way too easy to raise, right? I blame the Fed.
Fed's got a hike.
I blame the Fed. Financial conditions, which they almost certainly target failure and exert a lot of influence over, they're too accommodating. It's way too easy to raise and waste capital. I think the same thing when I look at the number of shows on Netflix or other publicly traded streaming providers. There's too much excess.
So there's that. So, anyways, I saw that. And then it was also topped off by this piece from yesterday. Oh, no, this is this morning. Meta Platform said on Wednesday it would begin using people's interactions with its generative AI tools to personalize content and advertising across its apps. So what you're typing into Meta's AI assistant, you're going to get back in terms of ads. That's, all I got to say about that. So if you thought I'm having this great conversation with this AI, yeah, and Mark Zuckerberg's going to know what you're talking about too. So there's that. Folks, want to talk to you a little bit about the seminars that Armstrong Advisory Group is going to be doing over the next couple weeks. We got 2 of them lined up. The first one is a week from tomorrow. It's at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod on October 9th. The second one, Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. It's going to be a live broadcast of the Financial Exchange show. You got food, and then we're going to be talking about the economy, markets, inflation, shutdown, you name it. We got all of that we're going to be discussing there. So, again, it's Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod on October 9th and Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your spot. Space is limited, and they're starting to fill up at this point. So, again, 800-393-4001 to reserve your spot. Or you can also sign up at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Taiwan pushing back on the idea of shifting more chip production to the U.S. Obviously, when your economy is heavily dependent on one particular export, you might say, yes, I'd love to help you build more chip factories in the U.S., but not at the cost of, my population being able to make a bunch of money.
What are we going to do?
Not entirely surprising there. Also, another AI-adjacent story. AI is not killing jobs, finds new U.S. study. Well, thank goodness for that. I'm glad we got that squared away.
It's certainly making work for researchers.
It is. And this was actually the interesting thing on this. So, again, not to poo-poo it. This was a study from the Yale Budget Lab and the Brookings Institution. And, again, like both areas that have a bunch of really smart people working there. But I also think here's the place where I struggle with any definitive conclusions about AI helping or hurting in the workforce right now is all the data that we have on it is backward-looking. And the way AI is evolving and may be used in the future is dramatically different from how it's been used in the past. So I don't think what happened 6 months ago can be indicative of what will be happening 6 months from now. I say this despite poo-pooing, Meta's AI video slop for the last 10 minutes because that's not a jobs thing or not. That's just something I think is dumb. But there absolutely are companies that are using AI right now to transform how their workers operate. And in some cases, that could result in less hiring, more hiring, or no change. And we just need to see how it evolves, I think, before we can definitively say anything.
Nobody doubts that the changes will be dramatic. What's probably overly optimistic is the time frame that people are expecting these changes to be made within. If you look at past big convulsions, they haven't been Big Bang type events, electrification or earlier industrialization, then electrification,
indoor
and all
plumbing.
the knock-on. Yeah, they took time to work their way through the economy and to show up in the productivity and economic growth statistics. It's not clear to me why AI would not. I'm not saying this won't be different, but if history is your guide here, it's going to take time for AI to work its way through the real economy and influence how productively we do things. People have been writing about AI for 20 plus years. You can read academic papers on growth. They all mention AI, those written in the last 25 years, but we've yet to see it result in a change in the trend. I'm not saying it won't. I think it will, but it'll probably be gradual, and that'll be a good thing for those who are displaced by AI.
AI's been writing about AI for 3 years also.
Right. You do wonder about that.
You have to. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll do a little bit of stack roulette with real humans, not AI.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Marc Varner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc faithfully served his country from 1981 to 1984, and we're thrilled to have him as a partner and presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family that includes his father Victor and brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and it's one of the main reasons he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue the legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc and help our great American heroes today by making a donation to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cushing & Dolan want to help you make the most of your estate plan, starting with how you gift your assets. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, breaks down the pros and cons so you can avoid costly mistakes. Gifting may sound simple, but it can create complications you may not see coming. For example, if you gift your primary home to your kids and they sell it, they could face huge capital gains taxes, and that surprise bill could derail your plan. It's the kind of insight that can help you protect what you've built and keep your family's future on track. Whether you're just getting started or you're deep into your estate plan, this guide from Cushing & Dolan is a must-have to make smart, informed decisions. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined. For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Find daily interviews and full shows of The Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Looking for a getaway that's easy, warm, and unforgettable? Discover the magic of the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Just a short flight from New England with no passport needed and no money to exchange. Soak up the sun, stroll along white sand beaches, and feel the rhythm of the heartbeat of the islands. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your fall escape now at visitusvi.com. That's visit.usvi.com.
Mark, what do you got for Stack Roulette?
Good news, I think, for the independence of the Federal Reserve. It's not something that's on everybody's daily radar, but it is important for stable inflation over time. So have concluded anyone who's looked at this issue. The White House wants to fire embattled Fed Governor Lisa Cook. And they may be able to eventually, but they have to make their case that she did something wrong first. So they can't sort of summarily terminate her. So the Supreme Court ruled today. There was a little bit of anxiety, maybe in fixed income markets, over this issue. So this has to play out.
And I believe they set oral arguments for January, I think it was.
According to the Financial Times.
So it's going to be at least a few months before we hear anything more on that front. Boeing is looking for a 737 replacement. Gosh, and it seems like they just came out with the 737 MAX. But here's the thing: the 737 MAX, the reason that it had those problems with the MCAS system was because that system was needed because they changed the weight distribution and the thrust distribution in an old plane, and so they had to build a system to correct for that, which ended up, unfortunately, resulting in 2 crashes and several hundred people killed. So they are now apparently in the early stages of developing a new aircraft to replace the 737 MAX, according to the Wall Street Journal. Don't think that you're going to see this anytime soon. Typically, airliner design is something that takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years. So this is most likely a 2035 to 2040 takeoff that you will see for this plane.
God willing.
But obviously, it's something that is, Boeing starting the legwork on this. And it does seem, according to the reporting, this is going to be a clean sheet design and not just a revamp of the 737. So that obviously gives them a whole bunch of, additional, leeway in terms of how they design it, such that you don't have the problems that plague the 737. You know what my favorite little design wrinkle is on the 737?
No, what?
Sorry, I'm kind of like an aviation, like,
yeah, I
like
this
this stuff.
This is kind of your thing.
You ever look at the engines on a 737?
All the time.
I know, me too. So the engines on most airplanes, the frame surrounding them is round because the engine is round. Like, you don't have oval-shaped engines. The engines on the 737, at least on the last couple generations, the nacelle is not round. It's what's known as a hamster pouch is the phrasing that they use for it. The bottom is kind of flattened off, and the reason why, in order to get bigger engines onto the wings, they had to taper the bottom of the nacelle so that it doesn't hit the ground during takeoffs and landings. And so they had to flatten the bottom of the nacelle out a little bit. So even though the actual part that spins, the turbine is round, the nacelle casing is not.
Is the nacelle what they call the cylinder that surrounds
the whole thing. And so basically what you end up with is this thing that's round for about three-quarters of it and then flattens out on the bottom.
I just thought that was a mistake.
It's the only way they could get bigger engines onto the plane
compared
to the earlier versions. And this is like one of the limitations is, hey, because of the landing gear and how they need to fit, they had to be very short landing gear, and so you don't have a ton of room for the engine, and this is how they worked around that.
I just thought it was more stylish.
Might be stylish. Want to know another little engine thing? If you look at the new ones?
Yes, please, tell me. Yes, absolutely.
You also see this on the 787. The back of them are scalloped.
Oh.
So they have these little curves that are cut out of them.
And scallops.
And that helps reduce engine noise.
That's all Tucker heard was seafood.
He's ready to go. Get him a slop bowl of scallops.
How did you pick up on that? You rarely see the plane from behind.
This is from the side you see it.
Oh. Even from the side, it's pretty well. I guess if you're taxiing in.
I'm the guy who, like, when my one friend who was like, hey, like, come out like in a little boat in Boston Harbor with me. I'm like, can we just go sit under the runways at Logan so that we can watch the planes take off?
Like that,
like it's.
Yeah.
I could talk about airplanes all day. Most of it will be right. Occasionally, a pilot will text in and be like, "Hey, you were completely off base on that." But no, those are to help reduce engine noise.
You ever think of getting your pilot's license? Seriously?
My vision is horrible, at least in one of my eyes. So
really? Oh, I didn't know that about you.
So my right eye, my vision is fantastic. My left eye, it is quite bad.
Do you have a contact in, or
no?
Oh, well,
I
recommend that.
So apparently, I'm right eye dominant enough such that like I can see everything very clearly. But if you ever ask me to like cover this, I can't read that sign right there.
Huh.
But now I know that it says the 5 Ds of housing: divorce, downsizing, diapers, diamonds, and death.
Right.
And nearsightedness.
Huh. There you go.
So there's that. So no, combination of, and like, look, now that I have kids, pilot's license, I don't think that's the time to train to get a pilot's license. I think that's the time to have already had one. Let's take a quick break for the next 24 hours, but we're going to be back tomorrow. Whole lot more coming up, and we'll see you then.